Right, this is where I'm going to fit the Gurney bubble to the passenger side. I've already done the driver's side, but the camera didn't work. So we'll now show you on the passenger side. So there we have the bubble. And luckily from AK Sports, when it comes with the piece that it's been cut out of, which I can't show you, but on the driver's door matches perfectly. So if we flick him over, that would give me my position where I want my bubble to be. This is only an approximation to start with. So then just mark it down. When you're doing this, it may help some people who are a bit put off by doing this sort of thing. Right, so there's the actual position, but we need to know the exact bubble because that's only what it was cut out of. So we then have to lay this one on where we think it's going to go. That's about it there. So that's the actual position we're going to use to cut round. Let's go forward a touch. Right, so we now mark this one. But we need to make sure that we're using the new line I've done and not the previous one. So we do some little ticks so I know which one I'm using. This is not an exact science. Right. Okay, so there's our cut, but I don't want to cut where that is because the actual bubble, I'm going to take this part here off all the way around, so my actual bubble is going to fit around that line there roughly. So I've got to cut in by that amount and then I'll trim this afterwards. So next thing to do is to work out how far that is in. I do this quite crudely. What I have to do so I'm using some chopsticks, not chopsticks, some tongue depressors, whatever, to give me where I think is the right point to go. So that's it there. So then you scribe round. So this is going to be my cut mark. As long as it fits in roughly, because there's a lot of filling to do. There we have the cut line. Again, I'm just going to mark it so when I go around the jigsaw I follow the right line. Right, so the next job then is to take the door off and move it over to the other side of the workshop and go around the jigsaw and cut that out all the way around. And then the next task will be to lay this one over where that cutout is, and then where the actual cutout is to go round underneath, which I'll show you in a moment. That then tells me where to cut that part. That way we get a nice fit. So next job then, door off and jigsaw. Okay, so that's that part cut out. So top and bottom. That next job then is to give a nice radius all the way around there, because obviously that's going to show when you do all the filling. It's going to make it a lot easier. So it's out with the sanding block. and a lot of sanding. Right, now radius round. So run the finger around the top there. Feels pretty smooth. Happy with that. Right, I'm just going to rough up the inside of here because I need to mark that with the pen. And then clean up that surface because we need to stick this down with some tape so I can draw a line underneath. And we'll place in with our original markings were. And I would take that down. That's my position. We can turn that upside down and draw around with the pen. I'll find the felt tip pen. We've gone missing. So just following the top skin. And remember, when I cut this, I've got to cut to the outside line. So outside cut line. This is a reminder to me. Right, I can now take the Gurney bubble off and trim it to the outside of the line, and hopefully we should have a nice fit. And then we can move on to the next bit. Right, so I just have to trim around that now. Right, so that's the next job to do. Right, so I've trimmed all mine round, and then it's a case of sanding, and keep sanding until it's a nice drop fit into the top there. I tend to make a couple of alignment marks there and at that end, so it always goes back in the same place. And then once you've sanded it down, you should have a nice flush fit all the way around. Right, so the next job then now is to glass it from the inside. But to do that, first of all we've got to roughen up that area, and we've got to do some work on the other side of the actual car door itself. So that's what we'll do. Right, what we need to do now is, because the bubble is obviously higher there and comes at an angle, I've got to get fiberglass in there. So we need to take this part back all the way round at an angle. So I found the best way to do that is with the angle grinder with a sanding disc on the end. Gets messy, and then we have to fit the bubble flush with some tape. So I'm going to clean up the top surface. I'm sure that's got a bit of dust on it again. Right, to stick the top part in, I like to use some metallized tape. I'm sure you've seen it before, just tin foil sticky back. That seems to stick exceptionally well. So we put him in, line him up with the mark so he drops in nicely. and make sure it's flush. And do one end first. And do the other end. I'm sure there's lots of different ways of doing this, but it seems to work for me. And again, it may help some of you who are doing the same thing. Once you've got those in, top and bottom, just make sure it does fit all the way round. Right, now we can start taping the rest of it in. Right, that's the bubble end. So then flick it over. Try not to stress it or flex it too much, because that's a good fit at the moment all the way around. Right, next job we now have to do is to roughen up the inside slightly around some sandpaper, emery cloth, and then we glass in with small pieces I use like this. So we go there, the next one overlaps it, and we go all the way round. Do it in small pieces allows us to get into the double skin area all the way around. So don't need much overlap. So that's about, I don't know, 2 inches by 1 inch, and then we overlap and go all the way around. So that's my next task to do. Right, I've just mixed up my fiberglass, or the resin anyway. Recycled my bits of fiberglass. So first thing to do is to just give it a coat of resin. Just round the join. Right, and I can bring in the small pieces one at a time. That's the first one. I've already soaked him in some resin. Just push that down. Number 2, and just overlap it by about 1 inch. Number 3. And there we have the first layer done. Right, the first job is to wet out the fiberglass, which I've done there. That gives it a chance to soak in and break down the structure. Just set the camera up again. And then we need to wet the area where it's going to go. And we lay it down. Then we can do the next one round. I'm going to do number 3 now, which is the top one. So I'll just go and wet that out. Right, so I think we're now ready for the second layer. So we'll do the one down the bottom again. And there we have it. We'll just leave that now to dry off. I'll just clean up a little bit around the surface. I'll just give that a wipe. As soon as I've given that a wipe, then I'll be able to sand that down, and we'll move on to the next section. Right, that's the fiberglass gone off now underneath. So the next job is to peel off the tape and put a fillet of filler where it joins up. Let's see what that looks like. Right, the first thing is to give it a really good sand all the way around. The pipe lagging. Right, now mix up some filler and we'll start filling round. Right, I've mixed up my filler, so the initial one is going to be a pretty crude, just to get it on there. Quite a few more coats to go after this. So I'm going to spray it around with my finger and then smooth it afterwards. Right, let's try and smooth it out a bit now. Right, I'm going to leave that to go off and sand it and see what we've got. So that's the filler now dry, so we'll do the first sanding using an 80 grit. Again, a bit of foam rubber to give it a radius. Quick wipe down. Right, now we can see the areas that need a bit more filler, slightly different colour, generally feeling round, a bit of a ridge there, need a bit more filling there, and so we keep going until we get a nice finish. Right, that's both bubbles done and doors fitted. Looks okay. Now playing around with doing gapping and making sure we got good fit. This is taking a lot of time. I've already fitted the door lock and striker plate. Lots of filling in this area to bring the spider in line with the door and the rear clam, but it's getting there. Nothing comes as a surprise. Didn't expect anything to fit, but we're getting there. So that's it for the moment. Next instalment I'll be playing around with the front clam, which is on and hinged, but I've got to do a lot of work now to make that fit. Once again, thanks for watching.